Welcome into the preview show for the MVP Open. Only 2 preview shows really left. I guess we'll have the Tour Championship as well, and U.S. Women's. Okay, I lied. 4 preview shows left. But this is one of the big 2 that is coming down the pipeline here. I'm your host, Hunter, joined as always by Trevor. The MVP Open at Maple Hill is one of those iconic tournaments, iconic courses, just an iconic tour stop. And there's always a lot on the line. This is, in my opinion, the only true playoff event. Because now we actually have cutthroat aspect. This event matters for players much deeper than just the top leaderboard. We'll get into that in a little bit here. But first, we're going to kick it off with a little course preview action. The course, for the most part, you're going to notice looks basically the same. Yeah. The 2 kind of big changes on the MPO side, there was a few FPO tee pads that looked like they moved back a little bit. They might have moved one forward a little bit, but it kept them kind of in the same fairway. So you aren't really going to, I don't think it's going to change how the course plays. And I didn't see any that I felt like were going to be drastic changes, but the 2 big changes, one, round 3, they're going to be using the B pins because it is 4 rounds out here this year, being a playoff event. Nice. So it's going to go A pins, B pins, A pins is how they're doing it. So the B pin will be a little bit of a switch up. Most of them, again, don't seem like they're going to be drastic changes.
Do you think they're going to play harder or easier in general?
In general, I think a little easier.
Yeah, okay. I think I'd figure for moving day they wanted to play a little bit easier.
But
that's going to be interesting.
I don't think if you looked at the scorecard, and this is a prediction, but I don't think you'll be able to pick out, if I just handed you the scorecards, which one was which day. Yeah. Because the other interesting part is when they play the B pins, this is especially true, is that's the chance of rain. Only chance of rain is on Saturday. So that's going to be moving day. So it might just, if there was any scoring advantage. But the other big change is actually hole 9. Might as well be a completely new hole, realistically. Typically, this is the one that kind of went up the hill a little bit to the right, and then you came down and approached what felt like an island green, technically a peninsula green, but feels like an island green. That is no longer. They have moved the tee completely left. You're in a whole new fairway. They've pushed it back, I think, about 150 feet. It is now 650 feet, and it plays up and then down to the left. So this will be a complete switch up of the holes, but this was the only hole that you looked at the map and it was like, wow, that's a change.
Yeah, they don't really do much. It's actually like 250 feet because I think it was only playing 400.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, 250. Yeah, I did the math wrong in my head.
Yeah, it'll be, I mean, I think that hole before, it was just a short par 4. They're trying to like mix it up a little bit. But obviously at Maple Hill, they're not going to change much.
No, and the approach into that green should be the same. And that's what always was tricky about that hole. Yeah. So it'll be interesting how much more difficult that drive makes it. But it's going to be a bit chilly, like mid-60s. All week up there. I'm very jealous. And then, like I said, there's about a 50-ish, as of right now, % chance of rain, and it's still being chilly on Saturday.
Wow, so the rain, I think the biggest deal with the rain is the tee pad situation.
Yeah, the bricks.
Throwing on the bricks. We used to have a course in our area that had bricks, and luckily got rid of them because bricks are just not
the worst tee pads. Yeah,
they turn into, I'm not even exaggerating, when they get rained on, they're ice, legitimate ice. I saw Haley.
No, they look like they're slightly different bricks than what we dealt with, but similar principle.
Yeah, it's brick.
People complain about the Maple Hill tee pads all the time.
Bricks can just get slippery. They look probably the best. Like, they are very pretty to look at, and like I think they've probably been in for a while. But I saw Haley King post that they were literally, like, she fell apparently. She didn't say if it was on the tee pad or not, but then she also mentioned in her post that they were blow torching tee pads to like dry them off. I guess dry out the brick. Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting storyline. Maybe we'll get a little bit of take the prop bet on a B-roll shot on the network of somebody blow torching a tee box.
Yeah, that definitely is going to happen.
Somebody's shoes getting melted from stepping on hot bricks. Imagine some guy goes down to like collect some like loose brick dust to dry his hand and just burns his hand, like 3rd-degree burn.
Like instead of the Eagle glass situation, we just have I got DNF because I burned a fingerprint off my pointer finger.
That would be something.
I don't think brick holds heat that much, but maybe
they make ovens.
Well, like that holds heat in.
It holds it in. Yeah, I don't know if a brick will stay hot.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, maybe we'll have to test that before this weekend. Let's get into some storylines here beyond the brick. That's a series.
Beyond the brick?
Beyond the brick somewhere. You got to like Simon Lizotte coming into this weekend. Obviously, last year worked out well for him, but the main reason you got to like him is I have 2 reasons. One, MVP Open. Players, maybe this is just a conspiracy theory or a weird feeling. I feel like players always play better at their sponsor's main event.
Yeah.
It feels like home.
I mean, yeah, I say more so than that. It's his home.
Well, this is his home.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the sponsor event feels like home.
Yeah, no, I think there's something to be said there.
And
I don't
then the
know.
secondary one is what you just said. It's his home.
Yeah, we do say that a lot, like the players doing well. And I think like there's always a good vibe. Like a player's in a good mood if they're just like getting to visit their sponsor. They're getting schmoozed a little bit. They're, they feel like they're part of the home team. But yeah, I mean, definitely the big one is Simon plays this course a ton.
Yeah.
It's his home course. So that's going to be, it's always tough to beat somebody at their home course.
Yeah, I like his chances a lot coming into this weekend.
Absolutely.
I think most
and he's
people
got a time
have
lapse,
to.
So
yeah, and the time lapse. There are a lot of good vibes coming into this weekend for Simon.
Mm-hmm.
First signature disc has been announced, is in the hands of retailers. Some reviews are starting to come out. People seem to all like it. He's excited about it. A lot of good vibes there. MVP is the main sponsor of this. He's at home with his wife and kid. It checks a lot of boxes coming in for positive vibes for Simon, and obviously he's going to be a hometown favorite. So
yes, the crowd's going to love him.
Which every crowd loves Simon. It's not like he has to deal with crowd hate elsewhere, but it's different when you're at home.
Valid.
So you definitely got to like Simon coming into this weekend. That's no doubt. But last year we did see Corey Ellis basically hand this tournament away in that final round.
Yeah.
He has now gotten the win monkey off his back, if you will. Last year, he struggled with it, D-Glow and MVP specifically. Now he's won European Open. Coming back into this weekend, what are we feeling of Corey Ellis?
I don't expect a ton. He's been pretty inconsistent this year. He got the win, but we haven't necessarily seen him pushing for any victories since then. So I don't think, last year I felt like he was a guy who was knocking on the door a lot more. And I think MVP was just another one of those tournaments where I don't necessarily look at Corey Ellis and think a certain type of course fits his game.
Yeah.
He's just a well-rounded player. So it's not going to shock me if he plays well. Obviously, last year getting so close to winning, and he might be hungry kind of to redeem that situation. But I'm not. He's not somebody that just jumps off the page at me like gotta have him in my top 3. Need to pick him to win. Like it's nothing like that.
No, yeah. I was pulling up the UDisc percentages to see what do they think of him. They're giving him a 1% chance to win. With a 24% chance of a top 10, which I think I would kind of agree with that.
1%
that vibe. Like, does he have a chance at winning? Absolutely. He did it last year. Well, he didn't do it last year, but he gave himself the chance to win last year. But yeah. I don't hate him for a top 10. I feel like this course does
give him a 3% chance to win.
Okay, there you go. I think this course. I know you just said the opposite, but I do think this course suits his game.
I think I think his game suits a lot of courses.
He has a very plug and play type of game, but I do like him more when we get to Woods. I could be wrong there, but I've seen it firsthand what he can do in the woods, and so that just always resonates with me. So when we get to a course like this where there are tight lines, there is woods, and there's a lot of backhand preferred holes, I tend to like Corey Ellis more.
I do like him on a backhand course.
But I don't like him enough to bump anyone out of my top 3.
Yeah.
Although it wouldn't surprise me. If he's up in the top 3, my jaw's not going to be on the floor, but I'm also not like predicting it going into the week. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I feel about Corey Ellis. Now, flip side of that coin, Ricky's season has left quite a bit to be desired this year. I think, in my opinion, it's been a worse season than I would have expected from Rick coming in. But, he had some struggles with lines early on in the year, and a win here or USDGC or both could really turn his season around. Obviously, he'd have to win both. And I think even if he won both, it wouldn't get him into the Player of the Year conversation unless there's just heavy recency bias. But a win here or USDGC would be a big momentum builder going into the offseason, going into next year for Ricky. He's won this event previously, but it was only in 2015 was the only win he has here. How much would this win mean for him? And do you think it's really that much of a possibility?
Always possible with Rick. He definitely hasn't been completely himself this year, but can't overlook that he's, top 5 in the Pro Tour standings. He's still hanging around this year. It's just not quite been the season we would have expected. It's always a guessing game with his health. Now, since the beginning of the season, we haven't heard anything about it, so we can only assume that he's playing at 100%. That's all we can really draw from that situation. But, yeah, I don't know. I think these last couple events really, with the way the Pro Tour works now and how difficult it is to win, you don't need to string together 5-6 wins to have a good season, even for the top guys. So with that being said, now you get to the end of the season, and these two events represent so much for the guys who haven't won yet that are towards the top, the guys who haven't won since the beginning of the season, or the people trying to kind of solidify themselves as player of the year, which I think there's a few of them. So that makes us really excited because Rick, for example, if he wins either one of these last 2 events, if he just wins MVP, he'll have 2 Elite Series wins for the season. He'll finish high up in the standings in the Pro Tour. Successful season for all intents and purposes. Still chasing that major, and that's he's got to be thinking a little bit more about legacy stuff at this point, but a successful season. And then you have maybe a player like Kevin Jones, for example, hasn't won this season, had an okay finishes throughout, but a win could really flip the whole thing on its head. All of a sudden, he is part of a small company of players who have won on the tour this year. So I think that just makes things really exciting. The parity, it just shows you, like, even with Rick not having the season we might have expected, he is still a top 5 player this year, and it's not going to shock me. I don't really see it happening this weekend. I haven't seen enough from him as of late to expect that. But I think he's just kind of a guy who's floating around the top 10. But if he gets hot, he's Rick.
Yeah, no, Rick's done. I think Ricky's done a good job where, and I don't know why this is. Maybe it's because I was such a Paul fan that I used to not like Ricky solely because I was a Paul fan. But I feel like what Paul's battling is, or has battled over the past few years of his career, is we've seen this shift in the Pro Tour narrative where it was Paul and Ricky. And even on the FPO side, it was Paige and Kat. But on the MPO side, the Paul and Ricky narrative in that era is over, right? Not necessarily because of the decline of them two, but because of the increase in the field strength and just there's so many players that can win week in and week out. And that, I feel like, from the media and fan perspective, has weighed on Paul more than it's weighed on Rick. Yeah. Because Paul, you go into each season and you're expecting multiple wins out of Paul's, multiple things. And for some reason, I feel like that expectation doesn't fully translate to Rick. I think Rick expects it out of himself, but if Ricky wins here and he has 2 Elite Series wins, he's still a top 5 guy. He's still in contention a lot. That's a really successful season for anyone, but it feels really successful for Rick. And I think that's something that he's kind of done well, and I don't necessarily think it was intentional. I think it's just the perception. But he has transitioned into this new era and still remained one of the top dogs, remained one of the people that is on your mind when you're thinking of, like, Calvin Heimburg, Gannon Burr, Eagle McMahon, Ricky Wysocki. You put those names together, he doesn't feel out of place fully. Yeah. Whereas this season, if you put Paul in there, and unfortunately, Paul's not going to be president, MVP, or at USDGC, because I think he could have done pretty successful at both. But you put Paul in there this season, it doesn't feel the same as Rick. So Rick's done a good job of just kind of maintaining his brand, maintaining his position as a top player. And I don't like him here at this event. I don't think he's going to win this event. I like him at USDGC. The major thing is really starting to grow. It's really starting to build. It's been since 2017. But I do like him more at USDGC. But a win here or USDGC, I think, ticks it into a great season, where right now it's a good season. He's got to win. He's doing great in tour standings with not a full season. Yeah. He's got a lot of things going for him. I think this bumps it into that next echelon of a great season. And so I think he's going to be very hungry for it, but I'd agree with you. I don't like him as one of my favorites to win out here. Yeah. I think there's just too many other guys standing in his way, and this course doesn't fully suit Ricky's game. I know he does well here, but it's not a course that I think of, and I immediately think of Rick with it. Right. That is not true about this next player I'm going to talk about. When I think of this course and I think of a player's game, I could be wrong. I feel like this course was made for Isaac Robinson. What Isaac Robinson, in my opinion, has standing in his way is he is coming off of a Worlds win. Mm-hmm. Didn't seem like it affected him too much at the Silver event because he obviously made it to a playoff against Eagle. Silver event, though, is a whole lot different than a full field playoff event. Obviously, this course, I think you can't really say anything about Isaac's game not being up to snuff at this course, or Isaac's not being up to snuff against the field. So I think more so the storyline coming in is, how much do you think Isaac Robinson will be able to come out here and perform this close to a world title, this close to a Worlds win? Do you think that affects him at all, or is it going to be same old Isaac?
Well, what's interesting is, yes, on paper it looks as if he should play really well at this course. The interesting thing about Isaac's season is obviously his 2 wins have both been at majors. I mean, is that purely coincidence? But I don't really think so necessarily. Now they both involve courses that did have a lot of wooded golf. That had a lot to do with it, I think. But I honestly, the reason why it's tough to pick him again, just with the hot hand fallacy, right? Like he seems unbeatable right now, but it's like almost like there's just no way he can win again. Like it just feels like that way to me. I almost have to go with what I know about the Pro Tour, which is that having wins and really good finishes in back-to-back-to-back events is just super hard for anybody to do. Calvin's really the only one who's been able to string it together over a season, but the wins haven't been there. So I do like Isaac a lot at this event. You have to like him just about anywhere right now, but he's not in my top 3. And that's purely because I think there are a lot of other people that get in the conversation that have history with this course. And it's gotten very crowded at the top. Another guy that is not in my top 3 that I think is somebody to look out for when I was talking about people who could kind of flip their season. Somebody who's been knocking on the door for me recently, Alden Harris. Alden Harris, only win ever was a silver event. It was, I believe, a pretty wooded course. I think it was Mid-America.
It was Mid-America, yep.
Somebody to look out for. I have a sneaky suspicion that Alden Harris could do something special at this event.
He definitely could. I could see it happening. I think what's funny is that whole friend group, I think, kind of does well at similar courses. It feels like. But I love Isaac Robinson here. I don't think the World's win is gonna have any bearing. If anything, he's playing more free, I would feel like. And
that can hurt some players though if you're not locked in feeling some guys.
That is true. But the pressure of playing as a world champion, I don't think that's gonna get to him. The pressure of it being a playoff event, I don't think that's gonna get to him. And what's interesting here is, like we said, both his wins have been at majors. It shows that when the temperature gets turned up, so does his game. It has felt like.
Yeah.
He has an interesting chance here because one of the biggest arguments against Isaac Robinson for Player of the Year is the Pro Tour standing and what Calvin Heimburg has consistently put up this season.
Yeah.
If Calvin Heimburg slips up a little bit this weekend and Isaac Robinson wins, that argument doesn't exist anymore because Isaac Robinson is very close to Calvin Heimburg in tour points.
Yeah.
Coming into this weekend, playoffs are worth the same as a major in tour points, 150%. So if he wins here and gets 150 points there and Calvin slips down the leaderboard, I think he was 25th last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
If Calvin slips and does something like that again, this will probably be one of the Elite Series that's dropped, meaning Calvin's points wouldn't really move at all. Meanwhile, boom, you have Isaac Robinson stepping in there. So this could be a really big turning point tour standing-wise for his Player of the Year argument as well. So I think there's a lot of implications for this. How much Isaac Robinson's aware of those, who knows? Yeah. If he is aware of them, though, it makes me like him even more because I like when Isaac Robinson has pressure. I think when you back him into a corner, he has proven twice at majors that if this dude gets a lead and you're trying to chase him down, just go ahead and give up. And I think I really like him at this course. I really like his game. I really like him across 4 rounds, which is something we don't normally see at MVP Open. I really like Isaac Robinson all around going into this weekend. The only thing that I think people could say against him is simply like, you typically see a little bit of fatigue post-Worlds win because it's such an emotional high. But he just went out at a silver event, which for fans and media, sure, it's not as big of a deal. But for a player, you show up, you want to win every event you're in. Yeah. And he battled Eagle McMahon, who is a great player and having a good season as well, and took him to a 6-hole playoff. So I don't see any Worlds fatigue there. I think he's going to have a very good weekend out here. But the player we were just talking about as well, Calvin Heimburg. This is kind of crunch time for Calvin. Yeah. Winless since April.
Yep.
His name is definitely in the Player of the Year talks. Some people think it's already locked for Calvin because he's had a very consistent season.
Yeah.
The wins just haven't quite been there. And what's interesting is it's not like the wins haven't been there because he's not getting himself in contention, but he's getting himself in contention in position to win and just not finishing the job multiple times. What do you think of his chances going into this weekend, and what do you think it means for his overall season this weekend in particular?
I think it's very important. I think that, when the time from his last win in April started to add up, for the longest time, our opinion was like, there's no narrative. He's just in contention all the time. He's perfectly fine. Got a little bit longer, and we were like, well, I don't know. And now I'm kind of on the boat where I've seen enough to believe that I think it's added up a little bit for him. I think that he is good enough that he's still going to put himself in a position to win. But when winning time is coming around for Calvin, I think that it's in his head a little bit where it's like, hey, I haven't won in a long time. People are expecting me to win. I'm having this amazing season, but I'm not getting as many W's as people would expect me to. And I think that adds up. And maybe he would say otherwise, but when you put yourself in contention as many times as he has since April and not won, it's surprising. It's definitely surprising. And maybe that's just bad luck on his part, but I think there is something to be said about it. I think that of all the players staring down this event, he probably is the hungriest as somebody who just needs that win, just really needs that win to just quiet everybody down, finish the season on a good note. I think, USDGC is obviously the kind of the last ditch for getting a win, but I don't think anybody can stare down an event and just feel like, well, I should win here. But I think at MVP, of course, he's played well out in the past. I think that he can certainly do that. Didn't play super well here last year. I think he took 26th, but there's no reason that if his game is clicking, he shouldn't play well. So I expect Calvin will get into contention again. Can he finish the job? That's another question.
What do you think has been missing since April? Is there anything in particular, or is it just kind of like different things, different weeks?
It's clutch putting. I think it's clutch putting. I'm seeing just cracks in his putting game. Not seeing a Calvin who is a lock from 40 feet that we've seen in the past. I'm not seeing a Calvin who is making as many long putts. He looks shaky on short putts sometimes, just not a lot of confidence. And that's not surprising. Everybody's human. Like, that's just what happens. And guess what? He's still putting fine. It's just to win on tour, your putting just can't really lack. That's just one part of your game that it has to be rock solid.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it with the word confidence. That's the word I was going to use in regards to this question, because I agree. I mean, you can go back and kind of watch our evolution of takes on this show. Yeah. Because originally, Nico was bringing up is the Calvin narrative, like, is he not clutch? Is he struggling? We both just dismissed it. We're like, no, it just feels like that because the dude's constantly in contention.
And I believe it was like that at the beginning.
And now we're here, and I flipped it. I'm like, the dude's not going to win. I just don't think he is right now, because I think he is feeling the pressure, and what we're seeing is he's cracking under it. Yeah. He's always felt the pressure, but I would have never said that it wasn't like this season realistically could have had a historic Pro Tour season. Oh, yeah. Because he put himself in contention more weeks than he did, and I feel like that could just be a gut feeling, but I believe there is, going into the final round, it feels like almost every weekend Calvin has a chance. Yeah. And if you're doing that every single weekend and you can he's pulled off, what, 2 of them? Mm-hmm. I feel like realistically, he probably had opportunities to close the deal on another 3 more. Oh, yeah. And like a 5-win season in this day and age would have just been unheard of. It would have been, no one could have questioned Player of the Year. No one could have questioned anything. Instead, we're sitting here and he's winless since April. You like him at this course, but you've liked him at a lot of courses. You like him at USDGC, but he's never won a major.
Well, listen to this. Since Play It Again, his last win in April, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 second places. Yeah. I mean, and then to add on top of that, we've had an additional 1, 2, 2/3, a 4th, couple 5ths. I mean, I think there's 6 second place that's just an insane stat.
There's 2 things in disc golf right now that I think are pretty certain, right? 1 is Kristen Tatar wins. Yeah. 2, Calvin Heimburg doesn't. And I think that's what's coming into this weekend. I'm as confident in Kristen Tatar winning as Calvin Heimburg not winning.
Oh my goodness, I wouldn't say that.
I'm also as confident in Calvin Heimburg finishing in the top 3 as I am in Kristen Tatar winning. Wow. I think he's a top 3 guy. He just, for some reason, has lost his mojo. As quickly as you lose it, you can get it back. So he could win this weekend and win USDGC, and guess what? Everyone has to shut up because, boom, he's done it. But I mean, it's really easy to sit in my seat right now and say that because
6 second places since April.
I'm not wrong.
It is pretty insane to come second that many times and not win any of those.
So I think we're going to see a Calvin in contention, but I think it's going to be another weekend where something happens, whether it's bad luck or just a lapse in focus and confidence, that lets another one slip.
I would agree.
But, we might also see a Calvin that falls down the leaderboard. And like I said, there's that Isaac Robinson scenario where Isaac Robinson could take the Pro Tour standing lead. It would be very interesting. Before we look at the Pro Tour standings, though, is there anyone else you mentioned, like Kevin Jones, Alden Harris, Is there anyone else that you're trying to keep your eyes open to going into this weekend? You think it could be their weekend to pop off with a good finish heading into the Tour Championship?
Another one sneaky who kind of flies under the radar a bit this year. Kyle Klein comes to mind. Somebody who has played well at this course before and absolutely could be there. Not really anybody else necessarily. I think there's a lot of players who can shine on this course. It is a pretty demanding course, pretty difficult. It's tough to string together. I mean, 4 rounds, it'll be tough to, I don't think we're going to see a situation where we have a winner. I mean, last year the winner came in at 16 under par. I don't think we're going to have a situation where somebody is, going double digits for 3 out of the 4 rounds.
Like, that'd be very impressive.
That's just not going to be. Yeah, that's just not going to be the case. So I think that a lot of the good players are going to rise to the top this year, and there are a few that could sneak in there. But when there are so many good players that are crowding that podium, it's going to be hard to knock one of them off.
Now, this player, as far as I know, is playing. Okay. That's why I was just double checking on my phone.
Okay.
But they did DNF at Worlds, but I think they're back.
Yeah.
And if they are back, they could really slide in with a very interesting season here, which is Adam Hammes. He's won MVP Open before. He had that cut at Worlds, so that he DNF'd. I don't know if he's back or what capacity he's back, but this is a course he's proven he could win at before. He has a win earlier this season that he just goes completely forgotten.
He would have he has an Elite Plus win.
That's what I'm saying. Out of nowhere, he could have a 2-win season that is just being talked about. Not at all.
Hammes is a fascinating player. I think a guy who's really talented just isn't able to string it together for a full season, which is interesting because that's something we used to say about another player very close to him, Anthony Barella, who has proven otherwise this year.
Yeah.
He's a guy who still hasn't figured out how to win, but is consistent this year. Very consistent.
Just came in second at Worlds, right?
Yeah, not somebody I love at this course.
No.
I could see AB doing something at USDGC, just very arm talented.
Very much so.
But yeah, Hammes, you can never predict him, but you're right. This course, it would make sense. He's won it before. It would be a fascinating season to have 2 wins and really not much in between.
The other player, I would agree, is not going to win here, but they are a player that this course kind of feels like it would fit. They know this course because they played it a bunch. Is Matty O.
Yeah,
he didn't play great last year, but 2 years ago I think he came in like 4th. So I think it wouldn't surprise me to see him in the mix. He's had, in my opinion, underwhelming season compared to what I expected.
Compared to last year he had a season that reminded me of Calvin's this year. Not quite to that extent, but he was living in the top 10. He still had a very good season this year, but when you don't pair it with a win, you have to do something really remarkable in the standings. And he's doing well for himself out there. Just had a nice finish at Worlds, tied 3rd, I think. Tied 3rd or 4th. But I mean, one of these days Matty O is going to win an Elite Series or Major, and everybody's going to tag me or whatever.
Maybe.
But he's not.
Yeah.
So I'm just kidding.
So let's go ahead and actually I'll pull it up on my phone here. We'll pull it up for you on the screen. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the MPO Tour standings, because this is, like I said, this is actual crunch time now. The other playoff events have been, we don't really know what they mean. We don't know how many people are making them, all of that. Mm-hmm. Now, we're in it. These are the players who, this is their last chance, because USDGC does not count towards tour finale. So you get in here or you go home. The line right now, so it's at 31, makes the cut because Parker Welk, 32nd player in. Yeah. He's outside of the cut, so he moves the cut line up one. So the line's at 31 right now, so barely in, but in. We have Nico LaCastro, Mason Ford, Andrew Presnell, and Vino Makala. I like all of them at this
tough
course.
Line to crack. Yeah, that's going to be a very tough line to crack.
They're all solid at this course. The first one's out. We have Robert Burridge. I think he could play well here.
Yeah.
He hasn't had the best season, but he's a very, very talented player, has a really solid all-around game. This is a course where he could pop off, and he is about 20 points outside the cut. This next player, I think, is going to struggle to make it in, but obviously it's a possibility, which is Chandler Kramer. A lot more forehand dominant. Not that this course...
2 Lone Star guys right outside the cut.
Yeah.
And Nico on the cut.
And
the Lone Star guys own the cut line.
Emerson is above Nico.
Oh, my goodness. So they're all over the cut line.
They're all over the cut line. I don't love Chandler Kramer's chances to get in realistically.
Doesn't feel like it would suit his game.
I do love this next player's chances.
Okay.
Paul Ulibarri.
Yeah.
He's sitting in 34th.
What a story.
He's 36 points away from the cut.
Yeah.
But it's an elite, it's a playoff event, 150%. It's worth the same as a major.
Yeah.
He knows this course well. His game suits this course well. It's not a big distance course. It's a very much a control course. He played pretty well here last year.
Paul Yulbari is changing. He took 15th last year. He's changing everything I thought I knew about him. Now, Paul Yulbari's had a solid disc golf career. He's obviously a great disc golfer, but I thought he was just kind of past it. I thought he was just not really going to be a presence on the disc golf tour anymore. And if he sneaks his way into the tour championship, I mean, that is a remarkable feat. That would be awesome.
He had a slow start, but he's really picked it up.
Well, yeah, and the distance, these courses have kind of started to fit his game a little more. He's not a super long thrower, but he can be a clean player, and he's showing that. And he's getting to these courses where he has good history, and he is doing what he needs to do and playing well. And it would be awesome.
So I think my biggest player to watch on this whole cut line is Sir Paul Yulbari. Let me make sure if Vaino Makala is even going to play this weekend, because I think that's another storyline. He is signed up. So we'll see if he shows up or not, but he is signed up to play. And I think watch for Paul Yulbari there. It could be a very electric storyline to finish it all out. And I like when there's a storyline of like Yuli probably isn't going to get himself into contention, but you start seeing his name near that top 20, top 15, then it's time to start looking for the other people.
Very exciting.
It's like, who is he catching? Is he able to catch Vaino? Because if Vaino's in like 60th and Yuli's in 20th,
I hope they do a live cut line.
They were
they did last year.
Last year they did, and they were pretty good about it. So hopefully, because the other thing too is, and we're not going to really talk through this, but with this year's Tour Championship format, even players that are solidly in the cut are battling for stroke head starts.
You want to move up.
And one stroke could be all that matters. And so you're moving between groups or getting into that top echelon where you're moving up and down.
There's a great chance that one stroke could be worth a few $1,000s.
Yeah. So that also is going to matter. We won't know how much it matters till we get to the Tour Championship, but players are battling for a lot more than the title out there this weekend, which makes it very exciting to watch the leaderboard up and down. On the FPO side, Kristen, obviously the favorite coming into this weekend. I think this course suits your game well. Every course does. Obviously the favorite, but this course also feels like it should play pretty well for Missy Gannon.
Yeah.
What does Missy need to do? Obviously, it's going to take some giving from Kristen, I feel like, but I don't like that. What can Missy do to take hold of this tournament and give herself the best chance of a win?
I think Missy just needs to continue playing clean golf. I realistically, what does she need to do? Do her job and hope Kristen has an off weekend. That's really the recipe. Because I think she did her job at Worlds, played about as good as she could, and Kristen didn't have an off weekend. She did what she needed to do to win. So I think she just has to continue playing well, continue putting well, and just hitting lines. I'll be interested to see how this course shapes up. She did pretty well in the woods at Worlds. That is, I think part of her game that has gotten better in the last few weeks of this season, especially, is just hitting lines initially. And I mean, she seems like the challenger right now to Kristen, but I think ultimately Kristen needs to slip up for Missy to be able to catch up.
I would tend to agree. I think the thing that I feel bodes well for Missy is, and we've said this before, Kristen isn't doing anything shocking or impressive in her shots. It's just that she doesn't mess up. She, in my opinion, is not doing anything shot selection, shot distance-wise, anything like that Missy Gannon is not capable of. Yeah. There's not a shot that Kristen Tatar
her forehand is significantly better.
That's fair. So. That's fair. But shouldn't really play too much of a factor here. But it's also, I feel like I watch Kristen's game, and what she does is she just stays in her lane, and she doesn't mess up.
Yeah.
So I think the keys for Missy is the putting green. She's going to have to make pretty much every opportunity she gets.
She's going to have to gain strokes on the putting green for sure.
And hitting lines.
Yeah.
Those are the two. But I think the big key here is Missy's got to get out early. Because you can't give Kristen a lead.
Yeah.
If you're able to get a lead on Kristen, you can hold the lead.
Yeah.
That's just what the history has shown us. So the key here is Missy's got to come out of the gates hot and then play her game and actually just stay within her lane, know what she's capable of doing, not push too much, birdie the holes that she can birdie, par the holes that she can par, and don't bogey. That, I think, could give Missy a chance to win. But obviously, no insult to anyone in the FPO field. It's Kristen's weekend. Yep. It would be interesting, though. I think the big focus for Kristen, not necessarily is this weekend, but U.S. Women's coming up because that's the season Grand Slam for Kristen. Yeah. So this could be a weekend where she could slip up and get caught. Certainly. Because, in my opinion, this weekend doesn't really hold much weight for her. It'd be great to have another win, but she's locked in the tour standings. Mm-hmm. She knows she's going to win that as far as the tour points go. She's already guaranteed in and in that top echelon for the Tour Championship. This would just be another check on the box. So her focus, if she's not careful, could slip to next weekend.
Yeah.
U.S. Women's, or 2 weekends from now with the U.S. Women's, which means this weekend could be an open door where Missy could slide in there and topple the giant. The other player that I think has a shot, but is a very interesting storyline to look at here, is Owen Scoggins, because at Worlds we saw her in a lot of pain, DNF, hurt, bounces back last weekend and wins by 9 strokes over Holly Finley and Kat Murch at an A tier.
Yeah.
So hurt or not hurt, she played solid.
Yeah.
What do you think of her coming into this weekend? Are you scared of her? Are you putting her in your top 3? What do you feel with Owen Scoggins?
Yeah, I think that winning at that A tier is pretty convincing. More time to recover since then. I think that she will play pretty much up to standard. Not expecting a win, but certainly not. I'm not shying away from her either at this event at all.
No, I would agree. I'm not scared to put Owen Scoggins.
Yeah.
And like I'm not getting away from her with my picks, because what she did last weekend I think kind of shows like she seems to be doing okay. Whether she's hurt, it doesn't seem to be holding her game back that much, or maybe not hurt. Other players to look at, in my opinion, I think Haley King possibly won. I don't know how much that fall hurt her, didn't hurt her.
Yeah.
I think Valerie Mandujano is definitely a player this course could suit really well.
Yes.
And really her sister too, Alexis Mandujano. But Valerie Mandujano is always the first one that comes to my mind. I think this course could suit her very well. I think she could get herself into talks there. Is there anyone else that comes to your mind on the FPO field?
No. I think that about covers it. Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, now let's look at the FPO cut line here for the Tour Championship. Theirs is at 18. I believe Valerie Mandujano is auto in, and she is outside. Paige Pierce is also auto in, but she obviously won't be able to be there. So the cut, technically, there's 20 players, I believe, that get in. The line is at 18, but with Paige Pierce not being able to be there, that line, I think, should be at 19, if I'm doing all my math right. We'll just read everyone that's kind of near there. So I think once you get to Stacey Ronsley, we can call that confirmed. So number 16, Like Lawrenson. I never know how to pronounce her first name, but she's at 570. Decently above the cut line, possible to slip. Juliana Korver just jumped in with her Silver Series performance in 17th right now at 569. Then you have Lisa Fakis at 553. So she is on the bubble. Sayananda right behind her, 547. According to UDIS, currently outside. I think that line is technically in her favor with Paige Pierce missing, but I'm not positive on that. But technically right now outside. Then Emily Beach, barely outside, 546. Holly Finley, 540. I think those are really the only players with a chance of getting in there. So Holly Finley, Emily Beach, Sayananda on the outside looking in. Then you have Lisa Fakis, Juliana Korver on the inside with a chance of slipping. So those are the players to really look at for movement. But if someone were to get a win, say an Alexis Mandujano, then that flips the whole thing on its head, because then you're auto in.
Yeah.
So if a random person starts getting up there with a chance of a win, obviously look at that. But other than that, those are the players to kind of scroll down and keep your eyes open for, which is always exciting. And hopefully the Pro Tour does that for you, so you don't really have to pay that much attention during coverage.
Hopefully.
Let's get into our bold prediction presented by Third Wave Coffee. Third Wave Coffee is local to us coffee roastery, but you can buy their stuff online. They're committed to ethical and sustainable sourcing for all of their coffee, and they have 20 single origin coffees from all over the world in stock right now. I've been actually enjoying this Colombian recently. This past week, I've switched from the Bogey Bro blend. I'm about to tell you about this Colombian. Absolutely love it. Tastes like strawberries and peaches. Great little cup there. But they did release this year the Bogey Bro blend that was tasted and approved by myself, Trevor, and Connor. And it's perfect for all of you looking to dip your toes in a specialty coffee scene. And for our listeners, they're offering a special deal of 20% off your order with code DISCGOLF. That's one word, DISCGOLF, to get 20% off your order. So head over to third-wave.coffee and pick something up today. Again, that's third-wave.coffee. Use code DISCGOLF to support the show and get yourself 20% off your order. Trevor, what's your bold prediction?
My bold prediction, last week, slightly swing and a miss, almost got it. I said Isaac Robinson would go wire to wire. He did not quite. This week, I'm going a little bit different, going a little more of a fun pick, and I'm going to say that one of the winners, MPO or FPO, is going to have an ace at hole 8 at some point during their tournament.
Oh, well, we both went bold predictions on hole 8.
Okay.
Hole 8. Because I went a little bit of a different direction, but I think there's going to be 5 aces on hole 8 across this weekend.
5
Wow. Aces. I think.
How many
more.
last year?
I don't know. I didn't look.
You didn't even look into it?
No, I just pulled it. I pulled it out my gut. I think there's going to be more than one per round.
I mean, I've got to I feel like I have to look into that now. Like,
you can look into it
to know if that stat's like pretty founded or just like as super.
That was just
super
that
out
was just
there.
gut.
Like last year, what if there was like 12 last year and just like
that would really
even,
hurt my bold prediction statement.
Course stats. This is for this
year.
You
go like all rounds.
You can jump into your predictions
okay,
while
well,
I'm looking
we'll get
for
into
this.
some predictions here. The point standings coming into this week. Excuse me. The major last week really shook things up. Trevor has taken the lead. I have 110 points. Trevor has 111 points.
Crazy.
We're neck and neck. So we've got. Did we ever decide what's on the line for this?
I don't even remember if we did.
We talked about it, but I feel like we never landed on it.
Oh, no, we did. We decided that somebody was going to have to birdie hole 6 for a certain amount of time.
Okay, 8 hours, I think we said.
Yeah.
So what's on the line is whoever loses this bet is going to have to head out to hole 6 at New London, the hardest hole in the area, and just restart it over and over and over until they either birdie it or 8 hours passes. Most likely 8 hours passes.
Most likely, yeah.
But one or the other. So the loser's going to have to do that. So a lot on the line. We don't want to have to do that. I'm at 110 points. Trevor's at 111. The predictions this week mean a lot. The predictions at USDGC mean twice as much because of majors. So it'll be very interesting. I'll just go ahead and lead off with my MPO pick while Trevor's still looking this up. Okay. MPO, I'll go from third up to first. Third place, I have Gannon Burr. I feel like this weekend, my top 3 is less based on trying to get players in the right spot, but having 3 players in there that I feel like could win.
It appears last year, nobody from MPO aced it.
All right. That's a bold prediction then, if I've ever heard one.
So 5.
That can't be true, but.
No, it is. I just scrolled through every score.
Boom. So 5 aces on hole 8 this weekend.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Gannon Burr is in third. Like I said, I'm picking people that I think have a shot at winning. That way they're in my top 3, which means Simon Lizotte is my second place pick because I genuinely think this is Isaac Robinson's weekend. I think Isaac Robinson takes it down, farther cementing himself as player of the year, also retroactively earning me that debate night win that was rightfully mine that Brody stole from me. I have to pick Isaac Robinson because I need that.
Why did FPO play 4 rounds last year and not MPO?
Oh, was one of the rounds canceled maybe for MPO? No, playoff.
It's listing it as like a 4th round. I'm very confused.
I bet MPO there must have been weather that canceled a round.
I didn't remember that.
There must have
maybe
been.
Early in the round it must have happened.
It must have been.
I think it does. No aces last year.
No aces
from
at all.
MPO or FPO. Unless I
That's
looked at it wrong.
a pretty bold prediction.
That's an incredibly bold prediction.
5 this weekend.
They're all just built up. All right, MPO predictions. Going a little bit different here. I've got Calvin in third. I've got Simon in second. I think he will play well. And I have Gannon winning this.
Okay, so we have 2 of the top 3 the same.
Yeah, I got Gannon winning, and I think that this course fits him. I just have a feeling.
I like Gannon out there. He's in my top 3 as well. What about your FPO?
FPO. So this is an interesting one because I obviously have Kristen winning. Mm-hmm. I'm omitting Missy Gannon.
Oh, okay.
It's another one where she's been very consistent for me in my top 3 for such a long time over the last few weeks that I'm like, it's not going to work again. So I'm going Valerie Mandujano in second.
I like that.
Just kind of feel like she's going to get hot at this course. I feel like this suits her game, and I'm going to take Owen Scoggins in third.
I have a similar top 3, but I'm going Kristen 1, Missy 2, Owen 3. That's my 3.
And it may work out for you.
Now, on the dark horse side, I hinted at this a little bit earlier. No one would have guessed it, but I said that friend group tends to play well together.
They do.
And so I'm picking the one from the friend group that's outside the top 30. He's been playing pretty well recently. He's been moving up. He's still outside the top 30. Sir Gavin Babcock. Yeah. That's my dark horse for this week. I like him at this course.
He's good.
I like his game in general. I'm feeling good. I like it.
Gavin Babcock is somebody to keep an eye on. He is getting very good. My dark horse pick is Paul Ulibarri.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go with Brody Smith again. I was like, man.
Thought about it.
I was like, man, dude.
Thought about
Trevor just rides with
Not
Brody.
going to get my heart broken again.
There you have it. So the MVP Open this week starts tomorrow, 4-day tournament. Be sure to tune in to DGN, followed on UDisc Live. Jomez, your favorite way to consume disc golf coverage. A lot of implications for the end of the season with this weekend's event. And then we just have U.S. Women's and USCGC, and then we're at the Tour Championship.
Crazy.
We're on the home stretch. It is crazy that we're already here, but get out there, watch some disc golf this weekend, and then we'll recap it all for you Monday on Grip Locked.